All right. Hello, everybody. So everything seems to be progressing along nicely with the class. A lot of the sites are looking really good. There's some slight variances. Y'all have probably noticed I'm not super strict on about grading it, following that step by step in the book. I kind of look at the picture, make sure it looks reasonable. I'm mostly looking to make sure that it seems like you're learning the material. A few people have seen this. Like if there's big issues, I'm more likely to send you an email and with instructions on how to fix those big issues than to put a bad grade on the thing. Because I'm more concerned with learning how to do this. Programming and encoding and all of this is kind of an important skill in our modern world, right? So I want to make sure everybody knows it really well. Got just a couple things to cover today. I'm going to talk about some links, and then got to think about tables and lists. Not a whole lot about lists. Our textbook seems to really, really love lists. I can't remember if I mentioned it or not, but our textbook seems to use lists for everything. And when I took a similar class like this a couple years ago, a few years back, learning the HTML, lists were never mentioned in the textbook. They didn't make the cut for that textbook. So a lot of you may have hopefully picked up a little bit on that by now, that there's a lot of personal style to it. We have a lot of options that we can mix and match together in different ways to get the same result. So yeah, and likewise when I'm grading the homework, I don't go line by line to make sure you typed exactly what the book said. I kind of like it when people drift away from the book, because that really shows that you know what you're doing.
Oh, you must love me then. Mine was a mishmash after that mess.
Yeah, because
the differences in the books, they're talking about stuff that, well, I never had that. Where did that come from? Well, it turns out that the new edition has got different stuff. So it's like, surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. For those using the old, switching to the old to the new edition, in the new edition in chapter 6, they also make a change, which I believe you did anyway on something, Joe. I don't know if it was on one of the homework assignments.
I had to, because it wouldn't work otherwise. I had to. Well, after we talked about it, I took the list and made it into paragraphs. That
what was different is in the classes page, had the picture up at the top, and then like 3 the dictionary list, DD list.
Yep.
DL, DD, all that stuff.
Yeah, those guys.
Had 3 of those. And the new edition in chapter 6, they take those and move the picture to the bottom, and then take each one of those, turn them into section tags, I believe.
Yeah.
And set them up in columns with the float attribute.
Yeah, I think that's that's what I ended up having to do, because I had to put section tags in, because otherwise it wouldn't flow correctly. And then I had that indentation I didn't want. So I said, well, how do I get rid of that? And we talked about it, by message. And you mentioned, I said, well, heck, I'll just turn them into paragraphs, and that'll get rid of that.
I'm more looking to confirm that you all are understanding HTML and CSS and how to use these things properly, not necessarily that you're following line by line from the textbook. So sometimes even if it drifts away from the pictures, I'm fine with it, if it looks to me like you're clearly learning the subject.
Yeah. The one thing I still haven't figured out is why my picture up in the header is coming out so darn small compared to what the book's showing. Size difference that I didn't pick up.
Possibly. We can look at it if you want to at lab time today.
Yeah, we can do that.
Adjust some stuff.
I guess we could do that. That'd be interesting. All right, thanks.
Let me make a note about that. That way it's so the sunrise picture or the flower picture?
the flower picture. The little flower picture was supposed to kind of blend into things. It just sat there in a corner. It was kind of little. And I said, well, that doesn't. I thought I put the size attributes they said was whatever it is. Yeah, I'm glad you know. Somebody knows. Tiv knows flowers. I don't know flowers. I know dandelions because I get lots of them.
Yeah, the little lily picture. It's we'll look at it and see what it is, because there's also a lot of interconnected things in CSS. Y'all have surely noticed that by now. You'll make a change on one thing and other stuff that seems unrelated will change. And that's the cascading. Whenever every time you set up a rule for one of the elements on the page to follow, every other element on the page knows about that. And sometimes they will make adjustments. So there's a lot of interconnected stuff. But we can look at it in lab time, the specific cases. Otherwise, does anybody have any questions? Has anybody encountered any other problems? No. I take it everybody was able to get through, read that stuff in chapter 7 then? Those that had the old book from the workforce alignment stuff. Yeah, I didn't realize there was a change in chapter 6 on the old book. When I was flipping through it, it still had the same pictures. So I didn't realize that one had changed. And that made a slight difference in the chapter 7 stuff. But from the homework I saw, it's all looking pretty good. So if there's no questions, we'll jump into the stuff for today. So the first thing I want to look at is talk a little bit about links, which we've seen quite a bit about links already, right? We've kind of seen them since day one. Right off the bat, one we use all the time is we have that link tag that we use to connect to our style sheet. Relevance style sheet. href, I'll just call it style.css, very generic one. And that's a tag used to bring in other information. We won't really see it for anything except the style sheet, but there are other uses for it that are kind of far beyond the scope of what we're looking at here. But it connects to other information that we're going to use, hence the relevance attribute. Whatever we connect with the link tag, we have to say how we're going to use it when we bring it in. We've also seen anchor tags. Again, those are showing up pretty much from day one. The A, and then all we need there is the hyperlink reference attribute. What is it connecting to? And just like the hyperlink reference here, we have to put the file name. I don't know, I'll put other for like other page.html. And this part has to be the file name, but the file name is for the programmer. That's whatever we call the file is just so we can keep it organized. And the computer has to refer to it that way, but that's probably not what we want the user to see. So we throw that over here in the middle. I'll put schedule. That's on your homework. Hopefully y'all make sense of what that is. So we show some useful words to the user, but when we set up our hyperlink reference, it goes to the actual file name, which is something pretty much solely for us, just for organizing the files. Might as well throw this one up here too, because those aren't the only type of files we've linked to. We also looked at some image tags, which uses the other type. We have width and height attributes and a few other things in there. Alt text is usually a good idea to put in. But instead of a hyperlink reference, we refer to it differently. We use src attribute, the source attribute. I don't know, I'll put pic.jpg just for the example here. And does anybody remember when we, what the difference when we want to use a source or hyperlink reference is?
Does it have to do with whether we would like to make it clickable?
It's not clickable. It's the amount of information we need. For example, on a style sheet, we might not need every rule on that style sheet, right? One of your assignments last week was to set up the media queries and do a separate layout for tablets and phones along with the desktop layout. So if we're looking at it on a phone, we don't really need that desktop stuff. Or if we're looking at it on a desktop,
is where the information is, and then link will be the external website, or
kind of like that. But it's how much of it we need. With a hyperlink reference, we can get by with parts of it. With a source, we need the whole thing. If we're like an image, we can't bring in part of that image file. Most image, however that's encoded, it might not necessarily be just pixel by pixel information, depending on the encoding scheme. Well, it kind of is, but we can't use just part of the image. If we want to put an image on the page, we need to bring in that whole file. We need all of that data.
Oh, you know what I was thinking? I was thinking actually both href, the hyper reference, and source is actually more where it is. And then I was thinking about the alt text is
kind of
so
that's something different.
But
yeah, alt text is primarily for disability thing. Like if you're doing a government site, that alt text will be required by law because that falls under ADA, the disabilities accommodations. So alt text is just some words to take the place of that picture. So
it's
blind
an
people,
attribute, right? It's all source and all are attributes of the href. Is that what it is?
Well, they're different things. So the source is where it's located. Same thing with href. The hyperlink reference and source attribute, those tell us where it is, and we decide which one we need depending on how much of the information in that file we need. So a music file would be another example instead of a picture, versus a music file or
okay. So if I've got the Thriller, if I've got the Michael Jackson Thriller album, I've got the album, and then I can use this, go in even deeper and look and to see what song I want to play.
Mm-hmm. But you want the whole song, right?
Right.
You can't take parts of a song. So that would be a source. You wouldn't.
Okay.
A source attribute, we use source if we need the whole file, the whole thing every time. And hyperlink reference if we just need parts of it. We might need the whole thing on a hyperlink reference, but that some includes all, right?
I had it completely backwards. Actually, I'm glad you explained that because I had it completely backwards. We're using this source to pull this information, and that we could be specific. So if I'm looking at another page and I don't want to pull the whole page, I can actually go to whatever that page is / and then chapter 4 and get your, okay, is that what you're saying?
Yes. We don't, if we use a hyperlink reference, we don't need the whole file.
Okay.
We can get by with parts of it. That's not saying we don't sometimes use the whole file. Like the anchor tag, if we link to another page, we're probably going to jump over there and use that whole page, right? But it's still, we could get by with parts of it. And in more advanced situations, we do kind of back it off so that we don't pull a whole page at once. But that's later in this class. For our purposes here, just remember that hyperlink reference is if we could get by, if we need some of it, and a source is when we have to have all of it. But in both of these, all of these, the way I wrote this, like hyperlink reference, I just put style.css. Or for this link to the other page, I just put other.html. Or for the image, I just put the name of the file. There's no folders or anything going on. So in this example, I'm just kind of assuming that everything is in the same folder. So let's look at what to do when they're not in the same place. It's fairly straightforward, and I figure I'll just do this with an example. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and open up text editor. Oh, I forgot that was still there. No, I don't think I need. So I'm going to start with just most basic site. 2 pages. I guess I'll put a picture on them and a style sheet. So very, very basic thing. And start this example off with the stuff we've seen many times, which you probably have as a starter file by this point. In the HTML tag, put in a head tag, body tag, and I'll save this somewhere, I guess delete folder. Hopefully that's empty, yeah. So I'll call this one the home page. So home.html. That way it can link to another page. Just to have some words here. This is the home page. Here's another page. href. I haven't created the other one. I'm just going to call it other.html. Kind of what's wrote on the board, and I will call it. Well, I'll just copy that one from the board. I'll just call it schedule. It's not going to be a schedule or anything. It's just a completely random page so that our link goes somewhere. Here's a schedule page. So really nothing fancy there at all. Might as well set up a style sheet for this. I don't know, I'll just put some stuff. I'll make the paragraph green. Background color green. So things we've seen before, I'll call this style.css. Just to put a background in it, and then we'll need to link to that. Link with relevance of a style sheet and hyperlink reference. What do I call it? Style.css. And what else? Oh, there's a picture. What's this? Oh, no, don't do that. I'll just download a picture real quick. I'm not sure if I have any here. I could probably draw something quicker than Chrome is going to work during the Zoom call, but I'll just try to download some random picture. Oh, maybe. There it goes. I'll do a mountain picture. Got to be something nice looking here. That'll work. Save image. Is it saving? And I'm just going to go ahead and save it in the same folder and call it mountain. And I guess I'll put it here at the bottom. Another paragraph, I'll stick in an image tag. And an image is a complete thing, right? We can't get by with just part of an image. Now, actually, if we want part of an image, what we have to do is crop the part out we want. So we have to bring in the whole file and create a new file of that smaller part. So we can't get by with just part of an image. But this is kind of everything we've seen so far. Oh, I might as well put that in. Alt. And remember, you often want to do this picture of a mountain. And remember, the alt text is primarily for blind people. So you want it to be descriptive if it's important. If it's not important to the page, right, it's just completely arbitrary images because they look nice in the style and don't add anything to your content. You probably want to put that in the alt text. That way you don't annoy blind people by describing unnecessary images, because they can't really fast forward through it. They have to listen to that description. So if the like a picture of a mountain has no value on the page, you could just put something like background image, background graphics or something. Unnecessary background graphics. Something to let people know it doesn't actually pertain to the page. All of that we've seen before though, right? Shouldn't be anything new there. I guess I better make the other page. So I'm going to go file. What's in the chat room? Well, I clicked the button for the chat room. It doesn't seem to be opening. So I'm going to copy all that over into a new file. Save that as, what did I call it? Other.html. This is the schedule page. Here's a home page, and I'll link back to the home page. Does everybody see the changes I made there? I just kind of went the other way. So the link goes back to the other page, and then this one just says this is the second page on the thing. Everything else is exactly the same. But what we've seen before, we're able to just put the name of the file because it's in the same folder. There's no need to go out and look for it. Again, name of the file, name of the file, because when I put them in the folder over here, well, everything's in this same folder. So if I open up the home page, hopefully it's not going to take too long. When I open that up, we can see all the green. So it found the style sheet, the picture, and everything's in the same place. There was no need to go out and look for it. Click schedule, it goes over to the schedule page, which doesn't look much different. Click home, go back to the home page. I guess you can at least see it flashing. And everything's in the same folder. We can see from the address here, the directory, it's exactly this. Everything's in the exact same place. But that's not a very good way to set these up, right? I'll move that over there and that over. Because sometimes websites get huge. It gets very confusing when all the folders are in the same page. I can pull one up here. So here's a bunch of generated documentation. But you can see there's a lot of files here. That's kind of confusing to keep track of, right? All of this was just generated. It just made all those files, put them all in the same folder. Nothing really too super fancy, but that's a lot of files to keep track of. If we were doing that manually and not a just generated website, I might get a little tricky to keep track of. Or just basic organization, right? Having these 4 files sitting in one spot, even with only 4 files, it's not very organized. We probably want to create some folders to organize this, right? Like a new folder for the resources that would have things like the style sheet. So I'll drag that up in there. And along with the style sheet, the image sounds like a resource, but really, there's typically going to be a lot of images. So even in the resources, probably make another folder in here specifically for the image resources. So now the pictures, even though there's only one for this example, the pictures are all in their own folder, nicely organized. The style sheet is in a folder dedicated to the resources, the things that aren't the web pages themselves. And likewise, we'd probably put some scripts in here, if we had got to that part in this class yet. We haven't seen scripts, but they would be organized in a similar way. If there's multiple scripts, we'd probably be like the images. We'd create another folder and put all the scripts in there inside of the resources folder. Home pages normally we would call that index so that the server can open it on its own, but that's separate from the rest of our pages. So a lot of times we'd even have another folder to include all the pages that aren't the home page. Just some basic organization things. Is everybody familiar with what I did there?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I think you've seen that before. Just keep everything nice and organized. That way we know where it's at and what to do with it. But that organization causes a bit of a problem with what we've seen so far, right? Because now there's no longer a picture here. Can't find that picture. Just clicking on the schedule page gives us a 404 error. Has no idea where that link doesn't go anywhere useful. The style sheet's gone. So what we have to do is refer to those in our script, which, yeah, the text editor doesn't even know about these. No, don't keep that in the editor. No, don't keep that in the editor. Right? The text editor lost track of where they are, so you need to go back in and open them back up just to edit them. Well, I'm going to start here, bring the style sheet back into our home page, and it's just like the directory here. Right? The C drive, users folder, Chris, documents, delete. Yours might be in a slightly different place. And then we get to where this file is. But instead of being in the delete folder, we have another folder to get to that style sheet. So we can just add that on here. Because remember, it was looking in the same place. Where'd my images go? Okay. So it was looking in the same place. So this last part, it like dropped off that home.html. And then to get to that other one, just put style.css in that place. So what we have to do is from that spot we're at, all of this, like on mine is C, users folder, the Chris folder, documents folder, the delete folder. From that spot, then we need to go into that resources folder and then a slash to indicate a file from that folder, which will get us the CSS on this page. And same thing for the image, right? It's just we have a couple folders to go into. So this is called relative addressing. We go to the spot we're at, which I'll come over here and highlight, because we are currently at this spot. So then to find other things, we can refer to it from this spot. We don't have to go all the way back up to the C drive and type the whole thing in. That's called absolute addressing. If we type the exact directory every time, but we can get there relative to where we currently are. So to get to that image from where we currently are, we need to go into the resources folder. Then we'll go into the images folder. And then we should be able to find a file called mountain.jpg. So what do I need to put to get to the other page? Because our link still doesn't work, does it? Still getting a 404 error there. So from here, what do I have to say to get to the other page? Anybody remember where I put it?
Was it in page or resources?
Resources.
The other one. What you said at first, pages.
It was a 50-50 for me. I'm sorry.
That's all right. In that pages folder is that other HTML file. So pages, and then from there, I have to reload the page. Should be able to click to this and get to the other page. But now our other page doesn't know where any of that stuff is, right? So we can use that same relative addressing method to find the other stuff. Oh yeah, I'll open this back up with the text editor. What am I in? Notepad. Edit with Notepad++. So, well, it's kind of different though, right? Because before we were here and we just went into those folders. But if we're down here in this folder, we have to go back up to get to the other ones, right? So to go back up, well, like if we go back up one level from where we're at, that's where that home page is. So I'll start with the link. So to get to that home page, we have to go up one level. So from our current spot, / means go up a level. This is saying from where we currently are, go up one level of folders, and then there should be a file called home.html. So if I click on that, it brings us back to that other page. And then we just have to do a similar thing to get to the style sheet where the folders go. So for the other page, what we have to do is go up one level. And then from there into the resources folder, and then we can pull up the style sheet. Something in the chat room. Let me check that. Maybe. It's taking a long time to open. Hit stop share so the chat opens. Okay, yeah, a comment about just using the back button. But that would work in this case because that was the page we just came from. But in more complicated sites, it might not be the page we just came from. We might have gone through a few links, right? If there's, well, like on the homework assignments, we have those, the home page and then 3 other pages. We might not have added the 3rd one yet, but eventually there's links there. So eventually we're going to have the home page and then 3 other pages. So if we start on the home page and maybe the index is in the top level and then everything else goes into another folder, just to keep it organized kind of the way I have it set up here. If we start clicking through and get all the way to that last page, we'd have to hit the back button 3 times to get back to the home page. So the link to, we just need that reference, that relative addressing reference. So go up a level and then there. And we can do the same thing for the style sheet. It's not in the same folder, so we can't just look for it, but we know where it's at. We have to go up a level, and going up a level puts us in the delete folder. And then from there, we need to go into the resources folder. And then inside of that folder, we should get to the style sheet. So there's our green stuff, and our link goes back and forth now. But we still need that picture, but it will be the same thing. We just have to, from where we're at, we could go back up a level. Oh, and if you need to go up several levels, like if you're 3 or 4 folders deep, do this for every folder. So if you're like 3 folders deep, and you got to go up three folders and then back into somewhere else, you do .. / .. .. .. .. .. .. .. So it goes up 1 level each time. So from there, we go up a level, then we go in the resources folder, then an images folder, and that's where we should find this file called mountain.jpg. There it is. Do I have anything else? So does anybody have any questions about that? Does all that make sense? Oops, sorry, I forgot to turn my phone down. I hate when I do that. Okay, oh, something's in the chat room. Maybe it'll open this time. I don't know why it doesn't want to open. Yeah, so it just means go up to the folder, go up a level of folder. Go up to the 2 dots and a slash means go up to the folder that the current folder is inside of. So we just have to keep going up folders, and it's kind of an important thing because then we can organize the files, right? Actually, let me stop the screen share because I'm going to try to draw kind of a generic one here. But when you all turned in those project proposals, had those hierarchy charts, right? Showing what your layout for your site was going to be. And I think the average one usually had the home page up top. And it seemed like most of them, they broke off and then would have different into sections. So it'd be organized something like this, like over on this first link, there's 2 different pages that go there. Only 1 page of information there, or maybe another thing over here. This category, the branches are like categories, so there's like 4 different pages there, and maybe 3 pages going down that one. And a lot of the hierarchy charts look like this, which would make it a good spot to organize this way, right? Put all of this stuff in one folder. And then this section in one folder. And all that in one folder. That's supposed to be a folder that I've drawn around there. It probably doesn't look much like it, but it just gives us a natural organization this way. And then I guess somewhere over to the side, there'd be a folder with the style sheet and the images that we can refer to and bring them in and keep everything nicely organized as it gets really big. So I wanted to make sure and talk about that before y'all get too far into your projects, because it really helps to organize, think about organization near the beginning and keep that in mind. That way you don't end up with a whole bunch all in one folder that needs organized later, because then you have to come back and do all modify all the links. Two other quick notes. We can use absolute addressing. That's like for the style sheet. Oh, somebody's in the waiting room. Stop share. Bring Blake in. Hey, Blake. We're talking about, hi, Blake. We're talking about addressing and directories and using better organization than putting everything in the same folder. But as always, it's recorded, so you'll be able to check that link shortly after class. Because along with relative addressing, we could also use the absolute addressing. So like our style sheet, we know is located here. I'm just going to copy it from that. So I could just copy in that whole link, because that is exactly where the thing's located. Which one is this? I'm not sure which page I just posted it in, but as I click back and forth between them, you can see it works exactly the same. But there is kind of a problem with that, right? Because I guess that's on the schedule, what I've called schedule page. Does anybody see a big problem with setting up the link that way?
Isn't that's going to be like a major site link to the homepage?
Well, so it would work on my machine. Would this address find that file on your machine?
Oh, no, not unless I have the exact same files.
Exactly. Yeah. And the server definitely is going to have different ones, right? So that's the problem with absolute addressing, is it's only going to work on that particular machine. So often we want to stick with the relative addressing. So like in this case, instead of typing that in absolutely, like we just saw, from the spot we're at, go up a folder or repeat that .. however many folders we want to go up. We need to go up and then start going back down into other folders. Because then when we go to copy this, we would just take the whole parent directory, right? And move that all, and move that whole thing over to the server all at once. And then all those links would still work, right? Let's do that, actually. I'm going to make a new folder called, I'll just call it example site. I'm going to take all of this stuff and drag it in there. And once that moves in, this one no longer works, right? Because we've changed all this, because now we'll have more on the address. So it's in the example site. It's not called index, so home.html. Oh, well, that's apparently not what it was called. I'm just going to click on it to open it. There we go, but we get back to the same thing, and everything, that organization was consistent. It all stayed right there with it. So our links still work the same. We can still find the style sheet and the image from all our pages, even though they're in different places, and click back and forth between the pages. And if I go upload this to that, to the site we've been using, the domain host we've been using, if the Wi-Fi will eventually open it, there it is. Oh, no, not quite. Thought it was open. I don't know if there's a difference between these. So go in here, go to File Manager. Which one am I on? Okay, I'll open that in a second. And into the folder where we upload it. And then we have one of our options is to upload an entire folder. So we can just upload that whole folder at once. Documents in the delete folder was this thing example site, and I can just upload that whole folder at once. So now here's some sort of index page. And then to get to it, we do the same thing. It's just a folder, so we just need the slash, whatever it was called, example _ site. I'll go there. I didn't call it index, so we get that generic thing, but there's a thing called a page, home.html. And everything still works exactly like it did. We have that whole organization. Everything's still able to find it. So it just really, more than anything, it helps with organizing our stuff and keeping it straight. And if we can use absolute addressing, oh, I moved everything, so it's not in there anymore. So we can use absolute addressing, but it's often a better idea to use the relative addressing. That way we can move it, well, from my laptop to the server, or maybe to a different server, a better web host. And I think that was all I had about those. Yeah. So there's some other stuff about links. Does anybody have any questions about that stuff? Should be fairly straightforward. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Okay, so for the next thing, we can also use links to move around a page. This is where having the anchor tag as a hyperlink reference really shows. Because so far, we've only been using anchor tags like this mostly. I made that big deal earlier. Hyperlink references when we don't need the whole file, we just need parts of it. And a source is when we need the whole file. So we can use that to navigate around the page. So I'm going to hit Control-D a lot and make a really long page. How long is that? I just held the button down. 100 lines, that'll work. I have to hit save. Save that, then reload it. There we go. So, well, in this case, they're all exact copies, but if there was different information there, that might take a while to scroll around and find, right? So we can use links to get to certain spots on the page. Like, I don't know, that was somewhere around 100 lines long, so somewhere down here around 50. I'll just pick this one. I'm line 46, that's somewhere around the middle. I'm going to put an ID attribute in there. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And I don't know, way down here at the bottom, near the bottom, I'll put an ID for bottom. And now we can set up, way up at the top, we can set up anchor tags to refer to that middle and bottom spot I put on there. So I'll add a paragraph in here. Paragraph, I'm going to have an A tag, and I'll fill out the hyperlink reference in a moment. For middle, and that A tag, then another one, the hyperlink reference to the bottom. In that paragraph. So now up at the top, it might be kind of hard to see there, but we have those, there's two links there at the top that go called middle and bottom, but they don't go anywhere yet. And we can refer to just spots on the page. Will this work? I'm going to see if this works. I think I need more than this. Nope, that is enough. Nice. I used to, years ago, we had to type the whole thing in, and they've dropped that, so we can just refer to that ID. Because it was an ID, so just like in the style sheet, if we need an ID, we use the hashtag to indicate that's an ID, and there's an ID called middle. We can do the same thing here. Hash bottom. So now that hyperlink reference, instead of going to an entire another page, just goes to the middle or bottom, which in this case, it's all copies. But I guess if you watch the scroll bar over here, we should be able to see it move. So if we go to the middle, yeah, now the scroll bar is about the middle. And then back goes to the top of the page, which will be another point towards that comment earlier. If we use those sort of links, we go to the bottom of the page, the back button just takes us to the top of the page. So the anchor tag doesn't even have to go to different pages. We can jump around the same page. And that's why it's a hyperlink reference, not a source. Because we only need part of the information. Like in this case, we just need to know where that ID, where the tag with the ID middle is, and then that becomes the very top one. Maybe I can, the ID is placed here. And this bottom one, the ID is placed here. Just a few more words so we can see what's what on there. I'll hit reload. And now if we hit middle, you can see the very top line is that one that has ID. So we just jump there and put that at our starting point. Or it will try to, because on the bottom, well, if that was at the very top of the page, we'd end up with empty space at the bottom. Our scroll bar only goes to the bottom of the page. So it kind of ended up in the middle here, but it tries to put it at the top. Does that make sense? Anybody have questions about that? So something like that would be very useful for a couple of people that were doing portfolio type pages. I think one person's doing their own portfolio, and two people had talked about doing portfolios for somebody else, making a portfolio for somebody they know. But on a portfolio page, there might be a long list of work to put there, right? And maybe organizing it by year or something, and being able to jump back and forth between those pages would be very useful if they start to get long.
Chris, what is a portfolio page? I guess I missed that one. I'm sorry.
Portfolio, well, just like a portfolio is showing off the work, right? So that was Tim that asked that question, right?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes. Weren't you making a portfolio page for your daughter?
That's actually what I was wondering. I didn't, based on what you said, I guess I didn't see where it was called that, but when you were saying that, I was like, I think that's what I was doing. Okay.
Yeah, you were on that list that I was thinking of. I was trying not to single anybody out, but like you're gonna make your web page showing off your daughter's talents, a portfolio of her work.
Okay.
Right. That way she can take that and use that as part of a job application. Because for musicians, artists, creative persons, a portfolio is a very important part of the job.
Yeah, I was actually reading that it's important for us as web developers, and something that I was reading. So that's actually interesting. I may do one parallel at the same time.
That was the next thing I was going to say. It's very important for any type of programmer to have a portfolio of their work to show off what they can do and demonstrate those skills. Demonstrate that you can do it. Show off your skills, sort of thing. So yeah, having those jump around links, especially if the portfolio pages start to get long, being able to jump around the organization that put it all on that one page that got long can be useful. What's the other thing? A couple things. Almost forgot about this. I'll put it on. I'm going to take out those jump around links. I'm just going to hold Shift and drag down to select all those lines and go back to what the page originally was. There we go. So back to the original version of the page, which is one paragraph that links to the other page. Whoops. I got rid of a paragraph in there. This is the home page. Deleted one too many. So just a couple paragraphs and a link to that other page, which opens in the same tab. Usually we want that, but sometimes we might want it to open in another tab, right? So if for some reason we wanted to keep our current page open while we open the other one, there's an attribute we can put into the link. So here's the link that goes to the other page. We have the hyperlink reference on that anchor. We can also set the target attribute. And the value we want, if we want a new page, is _blank. So that is, so as a string underscore, then the word blank, we'll make that open in a new tab. So sometimes we want that, whenever you're thinking about that, maybe remember all the times that you've been annoyed by the times pages would continuously do that. So you want to be sparingly with that.
But if I had something that was an external reference from the page, I might want that.
Yeah, that was going to be my recommendation.
Because that's what I'm using for for mine, because it links to external references outside the page in case somebody wants to look for the information about that. Point, it opens the page.
Yeah.
And you were right about the HTTPS.
If it's external, they can get back to your page. If they do it in the same browser, they might follow links on that page and never make it back to your page. Never make it back to your site. So having your site left there,
yeah, that's right.
They can get back to it. So that was what I was going to recommend. If you go somewhere else, that way it leaves your site open and the user can still get back to your site. They don't follow links on the other page and just kind of drift away from it, right? Maybe forget where they started at or forget how to get back to your page. If it was something they just found through a random search, maybe. So that's when I would recommend using that. Something like I did in the example here, you probably wouldn't want to do that on your page, right?
I'm gonna call that technique the bungee cord.
Yeah, because if that's you've probably seen that. Let me open where's pages? Open this one back with the text. Yeah, because if I put that same attribute here, set the target equal to a blank page, it's like all the pages on my site here open a new tab, navigating around there fills up. It's going to fill that up very, very quickly. I think everybody's probably seen that happen before, right? When you're on a site, clicking around the site, and then suddenly you've filled up with tabs, and they're all the same site and aren't necessary to do something else. So like big events, you would want to do that on your site. Like the idea springing to my mind is like if there's an email connection, like on the school's website, My Ivy, we have that email link. We'll probably want the email opening in its own tab. That way we can do our email stuff separately from anything else we do on the site. But, well, I want to open My Ivy and kind of point at some stuff. Because a lot of times you're going to make choices about whether it needs to be another tab or not. And there are a couple examples on here that'll work really good if this ever opens up. Well, that's taken a long time. There it goes. So from here, taking a very, very long time. So I have to use Outlook for my email, but it's under Office 365. But that link opens into a new tab. I'm not going to go all the way into my email here. But this has all the online Office stuff. So along with Outlook, I can also get to Word Online or Excel Online. Those might be necessary, but they're separate things, individual things. And just like the email, it's separate from other stuff we would do on this site. There's other things on the My Ivy site, or on the My Ivy site. Which ones do I have? I don't have the student tab anymore, so I'm not sure what links I might have. Maybe under employee dashboard. Yeah, so going over to like the employee dashboard, what's something I do on there? I turn in my timesheet for the hours tutoring and download the W-2 form. It's tax season now. I don't necessarily need to go to a separate thing because that's My Ivy specific. I'm going to the page doing one thing and then be done with it. Whereas email might be there for a while, or Word online. Those need to be separate things from just the general My Ivy stuff. So you want to consider things like that when doing stuff. Oh yeah, and with the tutoring, just a reminder that there is tutoring available, and there's help for this class as well. Does everybody receive emails from Tiffany about that? There was a problem a week or two ago, and apparently students weren't receiving the emails with schedules and stuff. But did you all receive an email today that had the schedule for tutoring this week?
No.
You did not? Okay.
Oh, I'll go look.
Okay. Yeah, if you could look, yeah, when I was tutoring earlier, she said that they told her it was fixed, and at least now her list shows that there's thousands of people. It was showing like 90 people, saying there was only 90 people on the list of students. And they told her it was fixed a couple times and people weren't receiving the email. But hopefully you're receiving it now. So yeah, keep that in mind. Some of the other options, yeah, _self is the one that works. It's just opening it in itself, which I'm on the home page. And the other two don't really do anything anymore. Target equals parent. Is that an underscore? Yeah. Underscore parent. That doesn't really do anything anymore. Oh, yeah, that one's still, oh, that one that way. We used to have frames. Most of y'all are probably too young to remember frames. Some of y'all that might remember doing internet stuff back in the mid 90s, early 2000s. I remember we had really, really lousy internet connections. So what we would do is we would use frames to embed pages, separate pages into a single page. So like this part up here of the page might be one HTML file, and this part down here would be a different HTML page. That way the loading, there wouldn't be loading issues. We could load each part of the page separately. So the other two options for target, which is parent or top, had to do with frames. Top might still do something. I don't think they do anything anymore. So reload that. It opened it in a new tab, so that's kind of like target. It would open it in, so parent would open on the same page, but the same tab, and just jump out of the frame and then move that whole page over, and top would open a new tab. And yeah, as opposed to just, if it was in a frame, like the stuff in the upper left, we could go to other pages while the other three corners of the page stayed the same. Some of y'all might remember when websites were like that. It's been quite a while since we stopped doing that. Yeah, that was like 25 years ago. Okay, and one last thing that I want to put on here is we can also use links to make phone calls and send text messages. And to do that, we have to explicitly state how we're going to send it. So I'll put that in another paragraph tag here. So again, it's an anchor tag. Then our hyperlink reference attribute is the phone number we want to call or send a text to. And we have to write like TEL, and then colon, then a number 502-819-9483. So like that's my phone number. So in this case, the homepage. Close that out. Got this link. It says call me, and you'll notice down at the bottom when I hover over that, it's showing the phone number, which I don't think my laptop's set up to make a phone call. Oh, I have all of my devices connected together. That's right. So I get this little message. It says, okay, there's a Samsung phone. All my devices are connected together. So it's like, okay, my computer knows about a Samsung phone. It's like, I can call from this. The default is probably we'll go to Skype if you're on a PC. You can see the little icon came up here. The page is trying to make a phone call. Alternatively to calling, we could also do an SMS message, which again does the same thing. SMS, then a colon, then the number we want to send the SMS message to. Which, well, my devices are connected together, so my laptop knows that my phone is turned on right now and only a few feet away. But by default, I have no idea what Microsoft would try to do as a default. Maybe Skype. Can you send text messages from Skype? I've never done that.
I don't know, but our homework didn't it have us turn that on and off depending on which on chapter 7? Because when we were in the smallest format, which would be a phone, it would do it. But yes. But we turned it off when it was the bigger formats because we assumed that they'd be either on a laptop or an iPad or some sort of tablet or
it will still try.
Well, unless we turn it off in the media query.
Yeah.
I think we did. Yeah. If I remember correctly, I think we did.
So there's probably something on your computer that could make a phone call. Well, actually, yeah. Zoom is on everybody's computer. Zoom could make the phone call for you. Zoom could also send that text message. So even on the desktop, I know everybody here has Zoom. So even if you don't have the app installed and just download it every time, if you clicked a link like that, set for a text or a phone call while Zoom was running, Zoom could make that call for you. So it's still, there's software that can make the phone calls. Yeah, I'm not sure, but it would be, yeah, just like the textbook does, it makes a whole lot more sense to turn that off unless you're on a phone. Because it's a little odd to make calls. There's also fax, but not too many people have a fax machine anymore, right? If I switch that to a fax, I don't know what it's even going to try to open with. Yeah, it won't even try to do anything here. I guess you have to have something set there, but that is one of the options. So yeah.
So how about if I want to send an email?
Email is a little bit different. We'll see that before long. I don't know why I didn't go back to my phone. I might have accidentally changed something, but I'll fix that later. Email is a little, we have a link to send emails, and I didn't include it in these notes, but we will see that at some point. At some point we will see it at a time that makes sense. It might be in forms what we'll look at on Wednesday. But any questions about those? So a whole bunch of things about links, just a little more details than what we've seen. The big one today is probably that organization stuff. how to navigate between folders so that we can organize our files nicely. Okay, so if nobody had any questions, probably a good time to take a break, right? So why don't we take 10 minutes, and then afterwards we'll talk about tables. And, well, a little about tables and also something about lists. What else did I have here? Tables, lists. Yeah, tables and lists. So what is it, 217? So does 10 minutes sound good to everybody?
Yes.
All right, so, well, the minute will roll over in a moment. Let's meet back here at 2:28 then. I'll stop the recording and go get me some coffee.